Hey everyone, let's talk about investing retirement funds in Bitcoin and the different options you have to do that. First of all, most retirement accounts will allow you to invest in Bitcoin as long as you do not have that account with your current employer. So the one exception that typically will not allow you to invest in Bitcoin is if your current employer, whether it's a 401k or a 403b, your current employer typically is not going to let you invest in Bitcoin because they do not want the liability of the volatility. Meaning, you put money in Bitcoin, it happens to go down the next day. They don't want you knocking on the door of the HR department saying, my Bitcoin went down in retirement funds, it's your problem, et cetera, et cetera. So most companies will not allow you to invest the 401k or 403b in Bitcoin because for the same reason they will not allow you to invest in individual stocks. You cannot take your company 401k typically and invest all of it in Microsoft or Google or Amazon or Facebook or, Tesla or Nvidia or anything like that. They just won't let you do that. They want you to put it in some very diversified, comparatively safe option, even if that has lower economic return, because again, they just feel like that's a safer way of making sure that you're not going to knock on their door and say, hey, something went wrong. Okay. So, which means if you have retirement funds that are not with your current employer, they can still be in a 401k. They just can't be in a 401k with your current employer. Meaning if you have an old 401k, you can typically invest those in Bitcoin. Okay, so how do you do that? You do that through either an IRA, an individual retirement account, or a Roth IRA, which is much superior from a tax perspective, or through what's called a rollover IRA. A rollover IRA, it typically gets that way because it rolled over from a 401k plan or a 403b plan or something like that. So if you have an old 401k plan from a previous employer that is not your current employer, you can probably, almost certainly, roll that 401k into a rollover IRA at Fidelity. And that rollover IRA at Fidelity will allow you to invest in Bitcoin. And there's two ways to do that, and we'll talk about that. Okay, your other option, if you have an existing IRA, is to roll that into Fidelity. And if it's an IRA, it stays an IRA. If it's a Roth IRA, it stays a Roth IRA. So the one that tends to sort of change names and change sort of function, or maybe not function, but it changes it looks different on a piece of paper, is when you roll a 401k into a rollover IRA. All right, so if you do with that with Fidelity, you have two options, and I'm going to walk through the pros and cons of each of those. The first is to roll over to a traditional IRA, Roth IRA, or rollover IRA with Fidelity. The benefits of rolling over to a traditional IRA, and I'm going to call it a traditional IRA, but if I say traditional IRA, I mean traditional IRA or Roth IRA or rollover IRA. So if I say traditional IRA, what I mean is it could be a traditional IRA, it could be a Roth IRA, could be a rollover IRA. Same if I say a Fidelity Crypto IRA, it means could be a Fidelity Crypto IRA, Fidelity Crypto Roth IRA, or Fidelity Crypto rollover IRA. So the benefit of a traditional approach is on Fidelity is flexibility. If you want to invest in Bitcoin in a traditional IRA on Fidelity, you have to invest in a Bitcoin ETF, exchange traded fund. And the reason for that is because a traditional IRA doesn't normally hold Bitcoin in it directly. And so you have to hold something that holds Bitcoin. And the thing you hold that holds Bitcoin is called a Bitcoin ETF, exchange traded fund. The two largest ETFs for Bitcoin ETFs are IBIT, which is run by BlackRock, although you can hold that one on any platform, not just BlackRock. So you can hold BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF on Fidelity and vice versa. The other big one is Fidelity, which is FBTC. F is in Foxtrot, also Fidelity. F is in Fidelity, BTC as in the three letters that represent Bitcoin, FBTC. So if you have a traditional Fidelity retirement fund, a traditional IRA, you can invest in Bitcoin with a Bitcoin ETF. I recommend FBTC because it's just Fidelity. It keeps it all Fidelity on the Fidelity platform. Also, Fidelity custodies the Bitcoin themselves, whereas BlackRock outsources custody to Coinbase and others, which means you're just trusting more companies. So with Fidelity, you only are trusting Fidelity. If you use IBIT, which is the iShares Bitcoin, IBIT from BlackRock, then if something goes wrong, I just don't want BlackRock saying it's Coinbase's fault and Coinbase saying it's BlackRock's fault. And, it's just cleaner at Fidelity because it's all Fidelity. So there's no finger pointing. It's just Fidelity. Anyway, so I use FBTC, or I did use FBTC until Fidelity came out with their crypto IRAs. And I'll explain what those are. So anyway, the benefit of a traditional Fidelity IRA is you can invest it in Bitcoin with a Bitcoin ETF. The downside, and the upside is if you decide you want to invest in other things, you can. You can invest in other stocks and bonds and funds and ETFs and whatever else. So you have flexibility. The benefit of the traditional approach is the flexibility. Now, there is a downside with that. One, it's a bit more complicated because instead of investing in Bitcoin directly, you're investing at a Bitcoin ETF. And so you have to keep track of, like, I'm buying a certain number of shares and those shares represent Bitcoin. But then on the platform, you got to run a bunch of complicated math to figure out how much Bitcoin you actually own. So if you own 1,000 shares of FBTC, the question is how much Bitcoin does that represent? And you can go to online calculators and find out. It's just, you have to jump through hoops to figure out what is 1,000 shares of FBTC. Well, how much Bitcoin does that really represent? Okay, the other alternative. So the traditional approach, the benefit is the flexibility. The downside is it's complicated to figure out how much Bitcoin you actually own. And because it is in a traditional IRA, it only trades when the stock market trades. That means it's only available to buy or sell 19% of the time. So the stock market, which is open from 8:30 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. Central Time, although everybody sort of quotes the hours in Eastern Time, which means it's open from 9:30 to 4. But if you translate that to Central Time, it's 8:30 to 3. So that is when the stock market trades. So if you add up the entire stock market hours in a week, it's about 19% of the time. And again, the reason is it's not trading on the evenings. It's not trading on the weekends. So 6.5 hours a day times 5 days a week. And then you back out, Christmas, New Year, and a bunch of Thanksgiving and a bunch of holidays. It's only open 19% of the time, which means for a traditional IRA, you can only buy and sell things that are in it, whether it's a Bitcoin ETF or Tesla or Amazon or anything else. You can only buy or sell 19% of the time, which means if it's 10 p.m. on a Saturday or 10 p.m. on a Friday night and you decide you want to sell some Bitcoin, that Bitcoin will not sell until 8:30 a.m. Central Time on Monday morning. If it's Memorial Day, Labor Day, whatever, if the markets are closed on Monday, then you're not going to get to sell your Bitcoin till Tuesday morning. That's a long time to wait, in my opinion. Okay, so as a result of those downsides, the downside being that the Bitcoin had to be held in a Bitcoin ETF and that you could only trade it 19% of the time and that it's kind of complicated to figure out how much exact amount of Bitcoin you own, Fidelity came out with a Fidelity Crypto IRA. So what is a Fidelity Crypto IRA? Well, it has the word crypto in it, which means unlike a traditional Fidelity IRA, it can directly own Bitcoin. Now, they will also let you own, I think, Ethereum and Litecoin, but basically the other 2 or 3 things you're allowed to own in a Fidelity Crypto IRA are not worth owning. The only thing you should put money in is Bitcoin. Now, again, they don't make you put it in the other things. They just allow you to put it in the other things. So, but it's super simple with a Fidelity Crypto IRA. You just buy Bitcoin. I mean, it asks you what you want to buy. It gives you like 3 or 4 options and you just pick Bitcoin and it lets you buy Bitcoin. And it's super easy to tell how much Bitcoin you have because it actually says the amount. So it'll say, instead of saying you have 1,000 shares of FBTC, it'll say you have 0.1 Bitcoin. I mean, it'll like just tell you an exact amount of Bitcoin and you can actually know how much Bitcoin you have. So there's a benefit to that. Also, Fidelity Crypto trades 24/7. So if you want to liquidate or buy or sell Bitcoin anytime, day or night, year round, you can do that on a Fidelity Crypto IRA, and you cannot do that on a traditional Fidelity IRA. So what are the downsides of a Fidelity? So first of all, between the two, I would always recommend a Fidelity Crypto IRA because I think the extra trading hours, the extra simplicity and all of that, and the direct ownership are worth the trade-offs. Now, the downside is if at some point in the future you have funds in a Fidelity Crypto IRA and you decide you want to not invest them in Bitcoin, obviously you can, cash it out to US dollars or something like that. But a Fidelity Crypto IRA is specific to crypto, which means you cannot sell Bitcoin and buy Tesla or Amazon or Apple or, those sorts of stocks. So the benefit you're getting with a Fidelity Crypto IRA is direct ownership of Bitcoin instead of ownership through a Bitcoin exchange traded fund, ETF. So you're getting the benefits of direct ownership, which makes it super simple and straightforward to understand and see how much Bitcoin you're owning. You also have the benefit of being able to trade it 24/7. But the downside is, again, if you want to sell the Bitcoin and buy something else in the stock market, you can't, because of Fidelity Crypto, you can only buy crypto with it. Now, in my case, that's not a downside because there's nothing in the stock market I want to buy. So I have, for example, 100% of my retirement in Bitcoin, and it is in a Fidelity Crypto IRA. And it got that way because I had a 401k from Baumgar Corporation that I accumulated between 2003 and 2014 when I sold Baumgar Corporation. So in that 11 years, I had a 401k. Well, my good friend Lee recommended or made me aware that I could roll over that old 401k to a Fidelity account and buy Bitcoin with it, which at the time, this was a year ago, I did not realize was possible. I mean, as much as I know about Bitcoin, I had just never researched it. I assumed it was complicated. It turns out it's very straightforward. It's like 2 clicks and it's super simple. And so as a result, last year, almost exactly 1 year ago, I put the entire balance in that old 401k. I moved it over to, at the time, a traditional IRA because Fidelity did not have their crypto IRA. As soon as they rolled out the crypto IRA, I moved it to that. But anyway, I put 100% of that 401k in Bitcoin at a Bitcoin price of $57,300. So if you double 57,000, you end up with 114,000. And so over the last 12 months, that my old 401k that accumulated over 12 years and had been very, very slowly growing over the last 11 years. So basically, I accumulated that over 11 years, and it has been growing very slowly over the last 11 years. So there was certainly more in there than I started with, but not that much more. And just in the last 12 months, that has doubled. It's gone from 57,000 to more than 118,000. So more than doubled. So I have a Fidelity Crypto IRA. I do not envision wanting to put that in anything other than Bitcoin. And I value direct ownership of Bitcoin, the flexibility to buy or sell anytime I want, even though I have no reason to sell. So it's only ever buying. So anyway, so I recommend the Fidelity Crypto IRA, whether you're doing an IRA or a Roth IRA or a 401k, which you would roll over to a rollover IRA. Regardless, as long as you want to put 100% of the proceeds of what you're doing in Bitcoin, a Fidelity Crypto IRA is definitely the way to do that. If you're not comfortable putting 100% over, you can, I don't know this, but I think you can roll part of an IRA or part of a 401k. I think you can roll part of it over. But alternatively, you can roll it over into a traditional Fidelity IRA and then just move a portion of the funds over because they're all in, tax advantage retirement accounts, you can roll it over. So in my case, the Fidelity Crypto IRA did not exist when I did the rollover a year ago because they launched it back in, whenever they launched it. They launched it in the last 12 months. So it did not exist when I did that rollover. As a result of that, I rolled it into a traditional account. And then when they launched Fidelity Crypto, I rolled it from that account into the Fidelity Crypto account. And I think in order to do that, I think I had to sell the FBTC shares. Yes, now I'm remembering. I had to sell the FBTC shares, transfer the funds between a traditional Fidelity IRA, rollover IRA, to a Fidelity Crypto rollover IRA, and then buy the Bitcoin with it. So it was a little bit of an ordeal because I was selling all of the FBTC and buying Bitcoin. Now, if you're rolling over an IRA or a Roth IRA or a 401k into a rollover IRA, you could do that straight into Fidelity Crypto, and you would not have the problem I had, which is that I rolled it into well, it's not a problem, it just created an extra step. I rolled it into a traditional IRA first, and then bought FBTC with it, left it that way for months until they came out with Fidelity Crypto IRA, and then I sold the FBTC shares, moved the money over to the IRA, and bought Bitcoin with it. Fidelity Crypto IRA. So anyway, to summarize, so basically one of the best ways to own Bitcoin is in a retirement account. The most common ways to do that are a IRA, a Roth IRA, or a rollover IRA, which means it came from a 401k or I think a 403b, but it definitely could come from a 401k and turn into a rollover IRA. So that is a great way to own Bitcoin. And my recommendation, again, if you don't need the flexibility of investing in other random stuff, which I do not because I only want to be invested in Bitcoin, the best way to do that is to roll it over to a Fidelity Crypto IRA. And if you have a traditional IRA, it would roll to a Fidelity Crypto IRA. If you have a Roth IRA, it would roll to a Fidelity Crypto Roth IRA. And if you have a 401k, it would roll over to a Fidelity Crypto Rollover IRA. Or if you used to have a 401k and you already rolled it over into an IRA, so it's already a rollover IRA, then you would just be rolling it over from wherever it is, from a traditional rollover IRA to a Fidelity Crypto rollover IRA. I know that's a lot of moving parts. I know it's complicated. It's actually super easy to do. And I can speak from personal experience that my entire retirement fund has doubled in value over the last 12 months because I did that 12 months ago. So if you have any questions, let me know. I love the Fidelity Crypto IRA product. I think it's fantastic. I love that you can own directly Bitcoin with it. I love that it trades 24/7. I love that it's super easy to know how much Bitcoin you actually own because it shows you that rather than just how many shares of a Bitcoin ETF you own. And then you have to figure that out, which is a pain. But anyway, so I definitely recommend the Fidelity Crypto IRA. It's worked great for me and for others who have done the same thing. And so that's my recommendation for this evening. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks.